when it comes time for people to get competitive and we got some big major tournaments coming up, these are going to be the Illuvials people are looking for. Like maxed out resistance, maxed out health, maxed out Omega. So how do we read the IVs and determine if our Illuvials are truly... that's pretty easy. So you would click into it. So down here, the IVs, internal value, I forget what that is. But I know that's like a Pokemon term there, right? You see here all the time. So this is what you're looking at. So basically it's trait. So you get health, movement speed, Omega, or Omega power, resistance, attack damage, and attack speed. A lot of these like speak for themselves, but like for example, this particular one has a 0 modifier. So it's like whatever the base health is for a Vermilion, that's what it's getting. But when you look at attack damage and Omega power, which is pretty good combo if you want something strong, those are maxed out. So you can get up to a 50% increase in those stats. So another thing that I've been doing is looking on the market, and it gets kind of tedious, so I can't do it forever. But if you look on the market and you see really any Illuvial, I don't even care if it's a non-hollow tier 1. If you see any Illuvial that is like getting close to maxed out, maybe they have at least the 30 or 40% on 4 or 5 of these, then those could be good ones to pick up. Because eventually people are gonna, when they start getting competitive, esports, PvP, they're gonna want the best stats to actually play with. So those might even be more valuable. Obviously, none of this is financial advice, but those might be more valuable than like even Dark Hollows, getting like perfect stat Illuvials. So I actually had, before I fused this up, one of the Vermilion, whatever, the first stage of this was pretty covered here. And I'm not entirely sure how, when you fuse it, how the stats, like I know the stats play a role in that, but I'm not sure maybe if it's the average or like a chance you get one or the other. But anyways, this is what I ended up with, which actually isn't bad. So I pretty much maxed out attack damage, Omega power, and movement speed, and pretty close to resistance. But then this guy essentially has nothing for health or attack speed. Alright, so if you're looking at a Scion Illuvial, for example, a Tatypie, this is going to be one that you want to have good Omega power with. So if you click into it and you look at the internal stats, you have the 6 different stats. You have attack speed, health, movement speed, Omega power, resistance, and attack damage. So the more filled up this entire traits, pentagon is, the better it's going to be. But it doesn't necessarily have to be filled up to be a good Illuvial. So again, for example, with a Tatypie, you want good Omega power, and this one has decent Omega power. And let's look at a different example. All right, actually Rhoda, because I like Rhoda. So for Rhoda, if you know how it works, flies across the board. Movement speed is going to be probably pretty good for Rhoda. You also want attack speed. Omega is going to be good for it too. Something like health and resistance might not be that important for something like a Rhoda. So a Majol is a fighter type. If you fuse it up, which I could just find one of those, it becomes a fighter Bullwark. I forget what the actual name is. So the fighter type, you're going to want attack damage, maybe attack speed, but it's also going to be Bullwark, so you'll want something about health and resistance. So I'd say the movement speed and Omega power for this particular Illuvial is less important than the other 3. So knowing the classes of your Illuvials definitely, helps you out. So here's another one, for example, an Ebb. So when you play an Ebb, it doesn't even move on the board. You go into here and you go movement speed. You don't need any movement speed for this to be, a viable Illuvial in a competitive match. So the fact that this is up here really doesn't mean anything. Now, for its healing power, you're going to want good Omega power. This has a 0% modifier for Omega Power. So this particular ebb is probably useless. Let's click into another ebb. Alright, so this is a little different. Still not great. So movement speed, again, it's maxed out. Don't really need it. You do have 40% modifier on Omega and resistance, so it's not going to move much. So if somebody gets locked onto it, it's good to have high resistance. But again, attack damage and attack speed, not the most important for this ebb. If you find an ebb that's maxed out with health, Omega power, and resistance, that's probably one you want to pick up. So this is an odd one. Attack speed and Omega. I never know. That's weak all around. I'm kind of just looking through these right now too, because if I see anything, I'm going to buy it. And these are still dirt cheap if you find something good. Alright, so let's look for a dash. So before we even look into the dash is a rogue. It turns into a slayer when you get to the Umbre. So that's rogue kind of moving across the board. Fighter, obviously you want the strength. It does have a pretty good Omega as well. So I'd say those are going to be the three important ones. The health and resistance on this are probably less important. So again, this is not a very good one. Health and resistance, yeah, they're up there good, but you want to see movement speed, attack damage, and attack speed for a dash. So I'm going to say that's a pretty weak dash. Alright, Umbres. So these are expensive. I need to go catch some more dashes. So Umbre, come in here. It's got the Omega power, attack speed, or attack damage. I'd say not a very good one. Now, I wonder if people are listing these because they know they're good. Obviously, those two are really expensive, so 337 bucks. Omega power, attack, damage, resistance, not bad. Can't be too picky if you're trying to buy something that there's only 9 of them listed. So this one has health and attack speed. Okay, not a very good one. Alright, now I would say this is too expensive for me to pick up anything right now. But this is the best one I've seen so far. Because like I said, because of this, the type it is. It's a rogue slayer. You want movement speed, you want attack speed, you want attack damage. So where it matters, this Umbre does have good stats. Yeah, it's possible to max everything out, so the more filled up, the better. But the resistance and health are less important than these other three. So I got a couple more. That was pretty weak. What's another Illuvial? Let's look for one more. So let's go. So Axodon. I was gonna say, are there no Axodons? Alright. So before we even go in here, Bullwark. So we want to see high resistance, high health. Honestly, I might even buy this one right here. I just said high resistance, high health. That is maxed out resistance, maxed out health, maxed out Omega. Movement speed, it doesn't really move that far. Attack damage, you don't really care for it to attack too much. I might buy this one right here. $10? Yeah. See, that's a pretty good find. I'm getting it, because that's a good one. And I don't think people are looking at the kind of stuff that I'm looking at. There we go. $10 for this guy. That's a solid pickup right there. And like, $10 right now, everyone's just playing the overworld being like, I just want hollows and dark hollows. But when it comes time for people to get competitive, and we got some big major tournaments coming up, these are going to be the Illuvials people are looking for. Like, I gotta remember to make a note of this. $10 for this Axodon. I would bet at some point this is going to be a sought after Illuvial because of its stats. One is great. Omega power, yeah. Like, literally, if you were to say the least important ones for an Axodon are movement speed and attack damage, and those are the lowest ones. The other 4 are all important, and it's maxed out health, maxed out omega, maxed out resistance. Actually, attack speed isn't really a big deal either. But the 3 that matter are maxed out. This is, I would say, you know, a top tier Axodon. Again, sure, you'd fill it all up and it'd be better, but pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that find, not gonna lie. So I'm heading off. Thanks everyone for tuning in, everyone who's been, you know, in the comments or chats. I really appreciate that too. Feel free to go into your settings and use my creator code, Nijafe, Nijafe. And also, if you've stuck around this long and you haven't really got into Illuvium yet, first off, if you're on Twitter, find me on Twitter, send me a screenshot that you plugged in my creator code, and then I can hook you up with some like, you know, common, uncommon shards and maybe some really common Illuvials to get you started if you want that. Obviously, I can't do that with everybody if 100 people ask for it, but if only a few people do that, then I'll get you set up to get going. But anyways, I appreciate it. See you later.